I've got 5 o'clock on the computer here, and I'll call this meeting of the Recycling Committee to order, and my job tonight is just to get a chairman elected. But before we do that, I need to, read the emergency evacuation announcement. In the event of an emergency evacuation, an alarm will sound. Everyone should exit the building by way of the nearest stairwell in a safe and effective manner. If the nearest stairwell is blocked by smoke, use the other stairwell. Do not use the elevator. Once you have reached the main floor, follow the exit signs to exit the building and quickly proceed away from the building. Please be mindful of others evacuating and of emergency vehicles. And that's something we have to do at every meeting in this room. I guess we need to call the roll first. Go ahead and call the roll.
Ansley.
Here.
Bowers. Caskey.
Here.
Claybo.
Here.
Deshay.
Here.
Monroe.
Here.
Silverberg. You have 5 present and 2 absent. You have a quorum.
We do have a quorum. The system tonight is set up for committee, which means if you wish to talk, you see on the gray box there, I believe it's your far right button. Right, yeah. If you press that, it should turn your mic on. Tana, check yours and see if it works. You would? Yeah, okay. And then you can turn it off by hitting the 0 in the middle. Turn them on off. All right. The next item on the agenda is the election of a chairman. So the chair will entertain nominations for the position of chairman. Do I have a nomination? Do I have a volunteer? Anybody? Who's on? Oh, okay. Yeah, I got 2 over here. I forgot. Well, I can't stay, so my only job is to get a chairman elected. So, anybody? Anybody have a nomination?
I nominate Mr. Caskey.
Okay, we have a nomination of Commissioner Caskey. Will you serve if elected? Sure. Okay. Are there any other nominations? Seeing no other nominations, this chair declares the nominations to be closed. If you are in favor of Commissioner Caskey as chairman of this committee, please say aye. 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 Oh, I can't vote, so disregard my aye. Are there any objections? Please say no. Commissioner Caskey, you are the chairman, so if you'll come and take the chair, I will excuse myself. Thank you all.
That's not exactly comforting. You're going to keep me straight. Okay, next order of business, we need to elect a vice chair. So any nominations, any volunteers? Mr. Shea is nominated. Second. Need a second. Ms. Monroe seconds. Any others? All in favor of Ms. Monroe? Signify by, or Deshay, I'm sorry. Deshay, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So Ms. Deshay will be the vice chair. Thank you.
D-E-S-H-A.
Okay, we have moved to set the agenda. Ms. Monroe moves. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Ansley seconds. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any public input on the items on the agenda? Anyone sign up? No. Seeing none. The business, let me remind everyone what we're supposed to do on the committee. If you look at the resolution, just remind everyone that we have a very short time period, and what we've been tasked by the commission to do is to study the feasibility of a recycling program in Blount County. I know that a lot of work has already been done on this issue. There's a lot of information out there, and I think probably the best thing for us is to try to somehow organize all the information that's out there first, and then see where we are, and then see where we want to go with that.
There was a previous commission or ad hoc committee, and so it would be good to get a record of what they did, or it's going to change by now too.
Yeah, I think the main sticking point in the past has been the glass recycling. I think that's been the big holdup on all of it. But I think one of the things we need to look at is, and when we talk about feasibility, how much it's going to cost. Is it possible to do it? 70% of what we're putting in our landfill we can recycle. How much would it cost if we had to get a new landfill? Those are the kind of things I think we should look at.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am, Ms. Monroe.
I move that our first order of business be that we ask for an extension from the commission to extend our existence until the end of the year, and that we report back at the December agenda meeting. When I made the motion for August, that was before the snowstorm hit, and we had a 2-month delay on voting. So I move that our first recommendation to the full commission be that we ask for an extension on our existence.
I'll second it.
Mr. Ansley seconds. Is there any discussion? We'll have to check and find out the proper procedure to do that, because this is a resolution, so we may have to find out if we can go in and amend that resolution or create a new resolution, and that may be something we'll have to find out.
Can Rhonda do that for us?
Do you want me to just make a resolution amending this resolution?
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? So we're going to amend that, or we're going to create a new resolution, correct? Okay,
We'll just use this number and make a resolution for amendment.
okay.
I'll include this motion in the
The
amended
agenda.
resolution.
Okay.
So, I guess the question, do you want that going to the agenda committee for June?
Yes,
Okay.
get it in the middle of everything else.
Is everybody okay with that?
Yeah, I think everybody approved. I think so. There's no objection to that, correct?
Going to the June agenda committee?
So what we'll do is we'll get it on the June agenda.
Yeah.
Any other discussions?
I would like to put on our next meeting that we invite all of the people in our community who do recycling currently to come to our meeting and explain what they do and explain their vision of what they would like to do in the future. And so we can get a better understanding of what we already have and what they would like to do, so that we don't have to look at doing as much, maybe, you know, if there are people willing to do it, to see what we can do to unify and help them get moving in the private sector as much as possible. So I would like to put that on the agenda, that anybody that's recycling now can come and speak and talk about what they're doing and what their vision for the future is.
I'm sorry, are you referring to businesses that recycle?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, anything that we've got going on right now, let them come and tell us exactly what they're doing and tell us what they would like to do, and if they have any impediments and what those are and why they're not, and what they would need to make that happen. And so just to hear from the community, hear what they're doing and why they're doing what they're doing and why they're not doing what they would like to do, so that we can learn from that.
And I can already tell you what everybody does and what our options are. And I actually invited Rock 10 to come today. I thought he was going to be here to try to just explain, you know, what they do and what their options are. But and we had visits from the folks at the last ad hoc committee, but we didn't get anywhere. We received no pricing structure before. But currently what is happening is, you know, of course, with the city of Maryville, they have the 2 locations, one across from the hospital and one on Best Street. And Rock 10 actually, well, Rock 10 is your biggest, and I believe there is another business, but I would not trust using them. They've had a lot of problems in the past, and I'm not really sure what all they recycle, to tell you the truth. So Rock 10 is really your only single stream option. A single stream means everything that goes into one bin. And then they have a sorter in Knoxville off Western Avenue where they sort everything out. Now they do not pay you for the recyclables if it's brought in single stream, because they have to pay to have that all separated out. They currently accept glass, but they are looking at, well, not looking, but possibly having to be able to not accept glass, and that includes Knoxville, surrounding counties, as well as Blount. Because of where they take it, they are no longer looking at accepting it anymore in Atlanta. So that's one thing that everyone in all of this, our county and surrounding counties, is looking at. He just told me that 2 weeks ago. That hasn't happened now, but they're looking at not being able to accept it anymore as well. And then you also have Spectra, and Rock 10 is a national company, so they're able to do a little bit more. But then Spectra is a local company that has been providing recycling services free of charge for all residents, whether it's been in the county or the city. And they are the ones that have all of the drop-off centers at the locations that we have listed on the Blount County website, except for the landfill. They have a small recycling center, but people do not normally recycle at the landfill. They have that there as a courtesy, but it's not used very often. People are mostly there just to jump off their trash, and they're not using their recycling services there.
Where's
Now,
that location?
at the landfill,
Oh, it's there.
yeah, they have offered recycling, but they don't really receive a whole lot. And actually, they took away a whole bin since I've been part of it, because they just are not receiving a lot. But Spectra Recycling offers free bins at these other locations, you know, like at Big Lots and Lowe's, and they also have their center off of Robert C. Jackson Drive, where their main offices are. But but you have to separate everything, because that's the only way he can really make money. He does not have the $2 million machine that Rock 10 has. So that's why you have to separate everything out, and that's how he is able to sell it. Now, Rock 10 used to provide the containers that they used to have for the city sites. I don't know if you saw those, where they actually would come and pick them up, but they did that for about a year. Now what happens is they put everything into one, and the city takes them up to Rock 10. So Rock 10 will be able to provide a container for a certain period of time free of charge, but eventually the county will have to be able to get it taken up to their location. And I would suggest any sites that if we do create any sites, that they really need to be strategically placed in areas where they're really needed. And with all of the phone calls that we receive at Keep Blount Beautiful, we have a very good idea of where those locations need to be, because as soon as they take something away, certain locations we never receive a phone call about, but there are other locations that, they get on us and they're calling us and they're emailing all the time about certain locations where they really need, high volume areas. And Spectra's had places all over the place, so he has a good idea of where those locations are as well. But we really need to have places that are manned by an individual and open with gates and closed at certain times, because there has been heavy littering and dumping in those areas where they are not manned. And I've witnessed that. Before with the city sites, when they weren't manned, I saw a Christmas tree in one of them one day. So it's just been something that, if we are able to do this, and I'm not really sure how we research the cost. Maybe ask the city how much they pay, you know what I mean? And Goodwill also has an option where they will have a paid person, but then you also accept Goodwill items, and I believe it's appliances and other things like that as well, but they all use Rock 10 as their outlet.
Well, I mean, in a way, isn't this whole concept of feasibility of we have recycling already. We have very crummy recycling.
We do.
So it's not imaginable. It's like feasibility studies where we can have effective recycling.
Exactly.
Put your little button if you want to talk.
And I think another important thing for us to, as far as information goes, is we need to know these, I live way down in South Blount County in Happy Valley, way down by Chilhowie Lake, and heat and garbage picks up our stuff, and they're great. And just in the last 2 months, they've started doing single stream. They gave us a real nice big garbage can, and they just say throw everything in there except glass, and it's really working great. And it's made a huge difference to us, because I can't tell you how many times I drove back from downtown with a load full of recycling. And just over the last holiday, I was at Spectra, and it was closed because the everything was overflowing, the whole yard was full of something. They had like 5 guys cleaning it up. So I went away for about 3 hours, ran errands. When I came back, what they had done is they essentially dumped the dumpsters into a truck and hauled that up, and then cleaned everything up that was on the ground and put it in the dumpsters. The dumpsters were already full. There still wasn't any place to put it. They didn't dump those dumpsters. So, I mean, it really, they've got to these companies have got to do what they say they're going to do in terms of.
The problem with Spectra is he is small, and he has trouble handling all of it at that location. And when the location changed at the mall and they had to close that, because I tried to help find another location in that side of town, and they have a trouble handling all of that at one location. And then MacArthur was closed because of a littered situation, and so now you only have these small places. And I believe only one of these other locations has plastics. I can't remember.
That's something, we definitely need to have it more standardized, so that when you go to one of these places, you don't have to cherry pick where you're going.
Yeah.
But the other thing I'd be curious to know is what's the percentage of Blount Countyans that pay to have a service, a private business like my family does, to pick it up. And for less than $20 a month, we get everything picked up except glass, and that's pretty cool. I mean, I'm happy to pay that, because of just the price of gas for me driving back and having to multitask and have my car full of smelly recycling when But it's important to know how much of the county's being, how much the county's being helped now, and is already doing it through the private sector, and then we'll know really what the county can do to fill the gap of what's left over. And
maybe one of the things that we need to do is we need to, each of us take something, because there is a lot of research out there. Maybe we need to take something and come back for our next meeting, because we're identifying a lot of the problems. I think a lot of us know the issues, know the problems, and one of the things we want to do is see if we can come up with some kind of cohesive plan to deal with all those things, whether it's over in Happy Valley or wherever. It should be the county. And I know that Mr. Silverberg has a lot of information. There's a lot of others out there that has a lot of information. So maybe maybe we can put together some kind of plan to where we're all going to come in with the information. Maybe Rhonda can disseminate it for us, maybe. If we can send what information we have. If we all go and research the exact same thing, we're going to waste a lot of time.
We need to divide it
So
up.
we want to kind of maybe assign duties, maybe look at what it cost Maryville when they were doing to man those stations. Manning stations is going to be expensive, so we need to know how much that's going to cost.
Yeah, I would read.
Anderson County does, they have a glass, a machine that does the glass, chips it, whatever it does. Someone should look into that, find out what that is. I think someone already has. I think there's information out there on that. We need to look at that. Maybe look at what's the possibility of some kind of partnership with the cities to do the whole thing. I don't know. That's the things that we've been tasked to do, and that's the things that we should be looking at.
The other things we could be looking at is whether or not we could put them in the parks. We pay a fortune for our parks. There's no reason we couldn't carve out a little section of the parks and put the recycling there. I mean, we're spending a lot of tax dollars on the parks.
Yeah.
So we should be able to put those. And that's why, the other reason why I wanted to bring in the private business owners, the gentleman that does his service, let them come in and talk about what they do and what they have to offer. And let them talk to us about what they're currently doing and what they would like to do. Because you never know, we might hear some things and be able to come up with some solutions based on what they say.
If you turn your microphone off after you're done, it gets a buzzing when your microphone is on.
Right.
May I ask one, I'm sorry.
So what I was just, that's the reason I think we need to invite everybody, because I think there's some out there that are recycling that would like to do more. And if we could communicate and find out what they need, and maybe we need to bring, I suspect some of the people at Parks and Recs may not be happy. I don't know about that. I'm just speculating at this point, but because of recycling being not clean, but I think maybe we need to have somebody from Parks and Rec come in here and talk about that, see if we could put some stuff there. And if we have, and extend a hand to any businesses and let them come in and talk and see what they're doing and what they would like to do. So I definitely want to put that on the agenda and just invite all of them to come in. Let's hear what they're doing.
Are you volunteering to contact Parks and Rec and invite them?
Well, I think somebody could do that. You're the chairman, that would be your responsibility.
No, I
That
think
the
that
chairman has to take those responsibilities on.
we're asking for volunteers here.
Yeah, well, I'm not volunteering except to volunteer the chairman.
We have minutes from the previous recycling committee, and I'm thinking that Joe Huff may have came, but I'll have to look back and see.
Can't remember.
Okay.
I can get you all the minutes of the previous recycling committee.
And I think one thing we need to look at, maybe before we invite them, is what locations are we needing? And where would our ultimate, like if we already have ideas of locations there, there are some places where we could add a location that would be not as expensive, as fencing in a whole area. So I think what we need to look at first is what would be our idea of, a perfect location across a couple different places. I think we probably need to look at first.
Well, you might have some people in the private sector that are willing to do that.
Well, I know.
And so
yeah.
that's
No,
why,
absolutely.
so we should bring them in
Yeah.
and see if they're
Yeah.
interested and talk to them. Because you never know what they might be willing to do if
Oh,
we just
no.
start the
Yes.
ball rolling. So I mean, communication with the private sector, keep in mind that if some of these things were profitable, they would be doing them. We're talking about having to deal with glass because nobody wants to deal with it. So we need to work with what we have and only address what we can't find solutions in the private sector for. And so, you know, I mean, obviously it's profitable in some areas, and so that's why we have some recycling. But we need to be mindful of the fact that if it was profitable, we'd probably see them doing the glass. So I think it behooves us to bring them in and listen to what they have to say.
One question I have, in research, I attended the meetings before, when the ad hoc committee before was, I attended the meetings before when the ad hoc committee was meeting, and brought them some information about recycling in Cumberland County. And they utilized a lot of their crushed glass in their with their highway department. And the machine, of course, we're talking about a huge difference in population, because there are about 55,000 people and we're well over 125 at this point. But their machine cost $100,000, but they've recouped that in a couple of years by utilizing their crushed glass with their asphalt. So I don't know how willing our highway department folks would be in looking at that to see if that would be an option as well. Because as you said, if we collect this glass and some way get it processed, then what are we going to do with it?
I just was online this morning, and there was in one website they were debunking myths, and one of them was the myth that glass is not profitable. They said the thing about it is that a lot of companies say it's not profitable because it's cheaper for them, or they make more profit moving it around in its raw state rather than trying to be a part of the processing it down. Now, if you have this crusher, that glass becomes a lot more valuable once it's been crushed and sorted. And it doesn't necessarily need to be sorted. If it's used in the highway, in pavement, I'm assuming it doesn't matter if it's sorted. So you actually create value when you pre-sort it now and then crush it according to its color, and then you've got another lower grade, and it apparently crushes down where you can use it for beach sand. I mean, it absolutely has no sharp edges left on it. Right. And so looking forward into the future, it might be that if Blount County could actually make some money by having a machine, and then that would maybe provide a service to these private businesses who could collect the glass, sort it, bring it in, we'd charge them to crush it and or we might even be able to buy it from them, or let them, and then we sell it to whatever groups what companies would want to utilize it, because it is a valuable material once it's been processed down a little bit. When it's not as valuable as when it's still in bottle form. So yeah, I'm definitely into trying to make money to defray whatever costs the county would incur by trying to increase our recycling capabilities so that more citizens can do it more easily. But it may not always be possible. I also just would be curious, I wouldn't want to infringe on private businesses that have a vision of how they're going to grow, and then we go take away their incentive to grow their businesses and do what they could do, as long as it's, as long as it's a really a valid vision that they have that they can actually do. If they're just hoping for pie in the sky, then because you're not going to get everybody to pay $20 a month for people to come. But there are people that just have a big hole in the backyard and shove their stuff in it and cover it up.
But that could be a way to incentivize those private garbage collectors to offer recycling, if some way we could help them with that process. I mean, that's been a small business owner in my past. I would have appreciated somebody looking at that to say, this is an option for you to make some more money. I mean, that to me is, if we could incentivize that, that would be great.
Yeah, you do have a lot of, I know out where I live, you have a couple of different private individuals that pick up the trash, and there is actually the company out of Knoxville that picks up. Waste Connections, I believe, picks up in the areas too. So maybe at our next meeting, maybe we can schedule the next meeting. At our next meeting, we can get the information. I'm going to review the minutes from some of the past. I've got some information that Gordon Wright gave me from the last ad hoc committee, some information he had. I believe Mr. Silverberg has information. So if everybody can bring in all the information that they have, and we can start kind of putting in some kind of order that we can look at. I'll try to contact Anderson County, which is doing the glass recycling there, and I think they sell it to someone in Chattanooga, if I remember that. I think there's somebody in Chattanooga that they're partnering with to buy the glass that they're chipping. I think it was in Chattanooga, but I'll review that and look. But Mr. Silverberg has it. I know that Mr. Ware has some information too. So those are the kind of things we need to put together. And I mean, we can sit here and talk about it all day long until we start putting some of these ideas together and start putting in some kind of order that we can start looking at in some kind of direction that we want to go in here.
It might be worth it for a couple of people from this committee to go over to Anderson County and go see what they do, you know. We spend an afternoon, drive over there, watch the machine operate, and see, you know, get the specifics like on how many tons of glass they can process in 1 week, and, you know, how many employees it takes to operate it, what their maintenance costs are, just to cover that territory. And I'd be real curious to go over there myself.
That information may be there, and so if we want to do that, and then we'll set our next meeting and then put this information together and come back. I'll actually be in Anderson County later this week. If I get an opportunity, I'll run by and talk to them. I will ask everyone to do this, if you don't mind, for my benefit, if you would review the committee rules and on protocol and all those kind of things. It'll help me because my brain ain't smart enough to keep up with everybody all at the same time. So if we can kind of be recognized and then speak, and then that'll make it a lot easier on me. And I'm all into making it easy. So
can we talk about, before we set our next meeting, who wants to contact who and invite, you know, what kind of information that we want to have next time?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I can't.
You have the list of businesses, so you
Yeah.
need to get that to our chairman.
I can, do you want me to contact them and invite them for
I mean,
next
you're
time? I
vice
tried that
chairman,
this
you could
time,
do-
but.
You're vice chairman, so you can do
Sure,
that.
open. And then maybe just a suggestion of locations that we have
No,
from.
yeah, all of that's fair game. I mean,
Okay.
we should be discussing all of it.
Okay.
I mean, it should be like a decision made that's the most convenient for the citizens and that
Yeah,
is
yeah.
workable for the businesses. There needs to be some communication there.
Oh, yeah, and I'm just going to
Yeah.
put together something that we've had for people that residents have called in and what we have been told people, you know, are interested in. So I can just kind of get that information together from what we've gathered, you know, over the past, well, it's been 2 years almost since, you know, they haven't had the other centers. So, and then I'll also contact the businesses. I'm looking at Rock 10, Spectra, Goodwill, and Woodby. Is there anyone else that you can think of?
There's all kinds of, my understanding, businesses that take newspapers and, but they may not be the actual businesses. It just may be the dumpsters.
These are the recyclers. And
Yeah, there were some people that are, do salvage, that recycle things like steel and different things that may be interested. We might reach out to some of them. I know that when I sent out an email about recycling, I got a call from someone whose husband owns a junkyard salvage that does some recycling and had some interest in it. So I'm not sure if he would be interested in expanding beyond that, but if there's businesses that do those types of things that we probably don't even know anything about.
Yeah, I don't even know about that.
I know. I mean, I was told he recycles steel and has an interest in. So apparently he takes it. Somebody buys it. I'm not sure. I don't know how it worked, but So those are some people that we could talk to. I mean, if people have salvage type businesses, they might be interested. And I think we should talk to Parks and Rec as well. We've got parks, there's places, we got the schools.
Is there someone who can contact the city to ask them maybe how much it costs them to man their sites and if there's a possible partnership with them at all? I'm not sure if that's even an option anymore, but.
I think the mayor had talked to the city.
Right, exactly. I talked to Mayor Mitchell one time, and he indicated that he had talked with the city
Yeah.
previously about that, so he may be a good source.
Well, and so these, we got Rockton, Spectre, Goodwill, what was the other one?
Would be, they do
Would
the
be.
curbside that I'm aware
would be.
of.
But then, you know, another category is sort of like the people that pick up our stuff, they're not technically the recyclers, they deliver the recycling to where it goes. So there's that other whole
You're talking like Heaton's.
component of the, yeah, like Heaton.
I think they take it to Spectra.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
But still there, I mean, that's a big service and that's
Oh, yeah.
part of the overall business
Yeah.
model. And so I think some of these small
I'm gonna ask them to
garbage
come.
haulers ought to be invited to the
Want me to
meeting
ask
too.
them to come?
It's good.
I'm just trying to think about the people, well, but, I mean, if Heaton would be interested, I can ask them to come. If you think of anybody else, just email me.
Okay.
And if you find out your contact, email me. And I know that when Goodwill sets up Goodwill are the ones who set up actually sites like convenience centers. I don't know if you have been, they do the Knoxville's convenience centers where they accept a lot of different things, and they also bring in metals and appliances and things like that, and eventually they pay back the city there. So I think up front you may not have, you have to pay, but I think eventually if they accept enough stuff at their locations, they, you know, it kind of overweighs that, you know what I mean, out.
We
That was what
have,
that cost.
Home Depot will recycle the mercury bulbs, and then Battery Plus recycles batteries. So those are things, I mean, if we could set up relations with some of these sites to accept those, I don't know whether the stores would take them or
That's
not.
hazardous waste, and that is a whole nother, that's a state, that's
So
a-
that becomes a different issue.
Yes.
Yeah, that's not recycling.
Yeah, it's a more of a I mean, let's say that they're accepting bulbs there and they have it breaks and there's a mercury leak.
Yeah.
Well, but I mean, the
That's why we had to
store,
quit doing the
the
hazardous waste
stores are
collection.
taking them.
But it's inside their store, I
Yeah.
think it's a whole nother, they're responsible for that.
Okay.
Because I've really tried to look into things like that too.
Well, we could just, at these service centers, we could make it known, take your batteries here, take your bulbs. People need to know.
Yeah,
I mean, I
all
called
that's on their
around to
website.
find places, I'm like, okay, this place takes batteries, so about once every 6 months, I take a bag of batteries, you know, and so if people were aware of that, we just need to promote that knowledge. Just make them aware, Home Depot recycles certain types of light bulbs. Batteries Plus recycles batteries, just about any kind of battery. So we just need to make that, I mean, we could, if we set up any kind of center, that needs to be common knowledge to the public, because I bet a lot of people don't know that they offer those types of recycling, so.
That could be one of the components of what we do is try to develop something for educating the public. And just something popped in my mind a minute ago. We also have the old Hubbard School out there that would be a good place. And the schools, some of the schools are a good place to put containers. Some of them have room, some
They do.
don't. But
Understanding is that the schools close up after they close, is that the case? And then after hours, you can't recycle? Is there any way around that? I guess the facilities are inside the gates, aren't they? The
but that also may
dumpsters,
be a positive.
It's a security thing with schools.
Yeah, well,
so-
I know, but I was just, right, I understand. But I was just wondering if it could be set up out, probably not. I guess they're probably gonna say no.
Well, I know that the high schools, they're generally, the gates are open to probably around 7 o'clock at night. And if they have an event at school, which most of the high schools have events all the time, the gates are still open.
But in the summer, they wouldn't be, or would?
In the summer, they're open. I know that Heritage High School is open today. They have softball, they have baseball, they have.
But there's not a consistent set hours that people could.
No, and I'm using Heritage, and Heritage is probably not a good example because there's probably not room there to do anything on that campus. You have two schools there on that campus. You have the high school and the middle school, so that's probably not a good example. But right down the road, you have Hubbard, where you could, the old Hubbard, so you could use that. But those are places that we can look at.
No, if I could, Chairman, just mention one thing. In talking about recycling, I know Charlene and I have talked a lot about this. One of the things that's important for us to remember is that medication, a lot of people flush it down the commode and that sort of thing. We have an option to take any medication to the Justice Center. It's open 24/7, where we can put medications there that'll be destroyed so that they cannot contaminate our water. And if we put them in the landfill, that'll eventually get into the groundwater. So, yeah, so we need to also think about that as an important option for us.
Okay, do we want to set our next meeting? Does everyone, how about June the 11th?
What day of the week is that?
It's on a Thursday. Because looking at our calendar for June, looks like the 11th is the first.
I can't. I can't be here then. And respectfully, I think that would be a bad idea because we've got the budget committee, the whole annual budget a week later, and I'm going to be busy studying the budget. So I would ask that I would prefer to do it after the commission meeting, just simply because I'm going to be real busy studying the budget for the next couple of weeks.
Well, the other thing, if we're going to ask for an extension, is that something that we would need to get done before our next meeting as well? Okay.
So how about 22nd? Is that good with everyone? June the 22nd? 5 o'clock? Is that good, Ms. Rhonda? Yes. At 5 o'clock, June 22nd, right here. Yes, ma'am.
She made that to a motion, but we never did go with a second or anything, so I'll just, she
The
wanted
one on.
to make that a request about asking anyone, and that's just part of your list of things you're gonna do, I guess. There wasn't really a second on it. That was
Oh, yeah. You didn't get a second. We're good.
okay.
Anything else?
So basically, we're going to talk to businesses and talk about locations. Is that in a nutshell?
And invite them to the next meeting.
Yeah.
I'm going to review the minutes of the past ad hoc. I'm going to look at some other information that, the information that was sent to me by Mr. Wright. I'll look at that. He gave me a lot of information. I'll review that, bring that back, and then everyone else who has information, bring that. And then we'll start trying to get that into some kind of cohesive packet of information we can deal with, because I know there's a lot out there. There was a lot done, and I know there's a lot out there, so. And again, I would ask if you would review those rules on committees, and that would help me keep up with everything. And it would help kind of, so that we can hear each other talking, we're not all talking at the same time, so. Chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We are adjourned if there's no objection.